We ready?
We are ready. I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm totally ready.
Doug's ready.
I'm excited for this one because I've been waiting to bust her balls for months.
My balls or her balls?
Yours.
Oh, mine.
You bust my balls all the time. I bust them right back.
Why are you gonna? You could have busted my balls in the last segment.
No, we want to make
recording?
you look good.
Are we recording?
We are.
When I read your interview and listened to your interview, it pissed me off, and I wanted our shot at it.
Oh man.
Well, here's the deal. There's a lot of misinformation in the sales world. A lot. And it rubs me the wrong way when I hear things that an audience might hear and actually try it. And so you're taking salespeople and misdirecting them. Not just misinforming them, misdirecting them because they're going to try to take this out into their sales world and turn it into action and try to turn it into sales, and they're going to piss people off.
Welcome to the Pivotal Leader Podcast with Gina Trimarco, featuring lively interviews with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their stories and best practices for shifting business from problems to profits. Sit back and get ready to pivot.
Hey everyone, this is Gina Trimarco, Chief Results Officer of Pivot 10 Results, a strategy and training company that helps businesses shift from people problems to performance results. Each week on The Pivotal Leader, I feature inspirational leaders who know how to positively impact their customers, employees, and brand through culture building. Welcome back to all of our listeners who have patiently waited it out during this hiatus from this show. Ironically, our hiatus was kind of caused by our relaunch episode guests, Jeffrey Gitomer and Jennifer Gluckow. Jeffrey had reached out to me in his sometimes surly way to share his frustration with one of our previous episodes and said it was time I put him on the Pivotal Leader. Of course, I asked for a reciprocal podcasting opportunity to be on his Sell or Die podcast with Jen. So I drove to their office in Charlotte, North Carolina to record both shows, having them on my show on the Pivotal Leader and being on their show, Sell or Die. At that time, I told them about a new show I was developing with a co-host that focuses on women in sales. Next thing I know, my co-host Rachel Tipton and I joined their podcast network, the Sell or Die Network, to offer a sales content podcast with a focus on women in sales. And of course, it is good for men too because we love men. So if you're looking for a podcast that dives deeper into sales and revenue generation, especially as a woman, check out Women Your Mother Warned You About, the podcast that makes sales sexy again, at womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com. And you'll also occasionally hear a male voice because we need the male perspective. And our partner Keith Walters, he will be on the show as well, contributing. So check that out. So it took me a few months to bring the Pivotal Leader back to life. And here we are kicking off this very, very lively episode with some profanities, I have to warn you, featuring Jeffrey Gitomer, the king of sales, and Jennifer Gluckow, speaker, trainer, and writer on all things sales. Jeffrey is the author of 15 best-selling books. And, you know, when I started training, when we started our training division, I know I had referred to several of his books. That's how I learned about Jeffrey. Of course, he's asked for royalties now on that. And I said, hey, I just quoted you. I quoted you and I gave you credit, but he's got that funny personality and I don't blame him because he's written 15 best-selling books. He's a creative, on the edge writer and speaker whose expertise on sales, customer loyalty, and personal development is world-renowned. Known for presentations, seminars, and keynote addresses that are funny, insightful, in your face, real world, off the wall, and on the money. Jeffrey gives his audience information they can take out in the street 1 minute after the seminar is over and turn it into money. True dat. And if you don't go to his seminars, you need to listen to their podcast. His podcast, Sell or Die, with co-host Jennifer Gluckow, gets over 100,000 downloads a month. Thus, we are very excited at Women Your Mother Warned You About to be part of their network. Jeffrey was inducted into the National Speaker Association's Speaker Hall of Fame. He is the king of sales. Jennifer, who is Oh my gosh, we adore her. Jennifer has Northeastern smarts and New York City savvy, a rare combination that has her positioned as the next big thing in sales. And she truly is just a sweetheart of a person to do anything with. We love her. Okay, she's not all New York. She's traveled the world, educated in the Midwest at the Olin School of Business at Washington University in St. Louis, and spoken to audiences from coast to coast. She rapidly rose through the ranks of a leading Fortune 500 company as a superstar sales representative, national sales manager, and executive director of sales operations. She is a smart cookie. At 29, Jennifer became chief operating officer of a test preparation and admissions counseling company. In 2013, she found her calling training and coaching sales teams and business owners on how to increase their sales and make more profit. Jennifer founded Sales in a New York Minute and shares her passion and strategies for success with businesses worldwide and in the classroom. Featuring the Little Red Book of Selling, the best sales book of all time, she has partnered with Jeffrey Gitomer's selling philosophy and strategies. So buckle up for this ride with Jeffrey, Jennifer, and Gina. Truly one of the funnest, if that's a word, podcasts I've recorded to date. And we did it live in their studio in Charlotte. So enjoy this episode. And welcome to the Pivotal Leader. We are in the middle of our, we're just going to go with it because I got Jeffrey started before I could even ask him the first question. So welcome, Jeffrey and Jen, to the Pivotal Leader.
Thank you very kindly.
Thank you for having us
nice to have you
here.
here in our studio.
It's awesome to be here in your studio. I'm excited. I think I might have to move here and do all my podcasts.
We love it. You're
Yeah.
more than welcome to.
And the rent is much more expensive than it is.
That's okay. You offered me a place to sleep here.
Yeah, the floor.
The floor.
Jen did.
So that's good.
Sleeping bag.
Yeah.
So what inspired this, and this was actually really exciting for me, this podcast, is because you actually emailed me
Right.
in response to one of my podcasts
Right.
where I was interviewing someone else in sales, and you
Yeah.
literally emailed me and said, it's time to be on your podcast because I need to tell you my point of view. And I literally read it 12 times. I'm like, Jeffrey Gitomer just emailed me. I'm like, that's a buying cue.
Yeah, that is a
He just bought into me somehow. This is amazing.
He did
reads
not
your
say
emails.
yes and. He did not say yes and. He said, hey, bitch.
Well, I hope you're rated E for explicit.
My response was, I've been waiting for your email. That was that was my
exactly.
response.
That's a good response.
I've been waiting for your email. I'm like, Jeffrey, get him more email.
Okay.
He's all riled up. So that's what kind of brought this to the forefront.
I was riled up.
Yeah, you were, and it was awesome.
We all heard about it in the office.
Yeah.
That's
Literally,
bullshit.
I broke into the staff meeting and talked about sales misinformation.
Yes, he did. He did.
And because it irks me, I have some buddies, young guns, the Jeb Blunts of the world and the Anthony Ianarinos of the world, and they're good guys. They give good information. But it seems to me that the older someone is or the older their organization is, the more they're trying to portray the way it used to be, and it ain't that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, some of this misinformation is by people who claim to be experts,
right.
who maybe have never even sold anything in their life until they came to their company and are now selling sales training.
When someone asks you what the price is, you avoid it. Seriously? Like, I can Google it, doofus, and I can find it out in about 9 seconds. Let me tell you what the price is.
Well, here's a true story. I'm gonna come clean
No, come on,
with you.
Liza.
I'm gonna give you a true story. So when I started doing the improv theater, and then we started doing training, and then we were doing a lot of leadership collaboration, a lot of customer service training, and we started getting more requests for sales training. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I do that. In my entire career, people kept trying to recruit me to be in sales, and I kept saying, I don't do sales. So I realized I was actually really good in sales and didn't know I was good in it.
Yeah.
So when someone asked me to do a sales training program in Myrtle Beach, I'm like, Google. And then I found Jeffrey. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn from, I'm going to learn from Jeffrey. I'm going to learn
Thank
some
God.
things. And so I've actually quoted you.
Cool.
You've been cited and quoted, like taken quotes of yours and put them
If you're a
in that.
diehard and you're listening to this, what it means is she violated my copyright law.
I did not violate. I quoted you and cited you and
Okay,
gave
cool.
credit to send people to the Sales Bible.
Okay, cool.
That is way better than the people who just pretend it's theirs. So
That's
thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't
Thank you.
I don't pretend, because what I was doing was taking all that improv interactivity and meshing it in and going, okay, so this is what this guy says.
Yeah.
And here's how you can get better at it. So
That's cool. That's
That's
totally
very
cool.
cool.
I do the same thing.
That's what I did.
I do exactly the same thing.
And so the thing about that was I felt like I resonated with your philosophy so much.
Thank you.
Because it was more personal, more real, more authentic, more like this is the way we're supposed to be doing it.
It was more conversational.
Right.
I have received over the years hundreds of emails that say something like, I felt you were just standing right behind me and talking to me rather than just reading the book.
Right.
Because I write like I talk. That's the secret.
I texted you that when we first met each other. I feel like you're sitting here in my living room.
I was thinking bedroom, but go ahead.
Oh, we're gonna.
I
I
was
hope I don't have to
trying
mark
to
this
be,
E for me.
I was trying to be PG here.
Maybe
Okay.
that'll be like the post show.
Well,
We'll
that's
talk
over.
about
Yeah, yeah.
about your relationship.
That's over.
I did, and I flew into Chicago to see you at one of your seminars because I wanted to get a feel for you live. And what I was really impressed with was the fact that you were out there. You were out there. You were talking to people. You were mingling with people. I was like, this is what it's supposed to be.
So, in terms of karaoke and improv, let me throw something at you. I learned my presentation skills singing in bars.
Sober, for the record.
Yeah, never had a beer. I'd write my next column. But what happened was, if you're in Charlotte and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're singing a 50s doo-wop song and it's a slow one, no one's paying attention. They're drinking, they're clanking, okay. But if you know the words, you don't need the machine. And if the microphone is without wire, you can take the microphone out and walk the audience. And that's what I did. And instead of singing to everybody, I sang to one person. So if you looked at me in that seminar, you see my eye contact was driller.
Yes.
Right.
That's amazing.
So I'm singing to one person and the whole audience stops what they're doing and go, who's he singing to? And the girl's sliding under the table. So by singing to one, I had the attention of all. And that taught me one of the most valuable lessons of my life in a bar, singing karaoke, that has stayed with me as a presentation skill literally forever. That's why I tell people, you want to better your presentation skills, go sing songs.
That's a great skill. We do that in improv too. We find that one person in the audience that we can actually engage
Exactly.
and interact with. Hey, where are you from? Oh, what's your name? And we can always come back to that. But that everybody would then turn to that one person and pay attention.
So if I'm in New York and we're checking into a hotel, I go, how's it going? He goes, pretty good. I said, I don't really care, but that sounded nice, didn't it? and it immediately engages the other person deeply. Like, how's it going? Fine. That's a standard stock answer. But taking it to the next level and adding humor to it, and it's a little bit negative. Like, I don't really care, but in New York, everyone's used to negative.
It's the right attitude for New York.
Exactly.
Well, let's go back to that negative and what started this whole being here thing, right? Some of the ways that competitors are doing training, and this is where I get riled up too, probably about similar competitors. I got a lot of no's to proposals because everybody was going to that one competitor, and it was starting to annoy the hell out of me. Because they kept going back to what felt like has been around a long time. So we feel safe with that. We're going to go with that. And I'm like, but the training's
Right.
It's but they keep going to it. What's your thoughts?
My feeling is that managers or sales leaders or sales VPs will take what is safe. No one ever got fired for buying IBM. And that was an expression that was for decades that led the trail for IBM to become a multi-billion-dollar company. But the fact is, IBM sucked and they couldn't deliver. and things were backwards and their software didn't work well. And eventually other people came in, Sun Microsystems showed up and started to eat their lunch.
I remember when Google Apps for Business first came out, IT departments were so scared to implement it because of the risk of it's Google, it's free. How could it be safe? How are we going to protect it? There were so many risks that a lot of companies were reluctant to do it, but the cost savings from $5 a person a month to like Microsoft product, which was hundreds of dollars a person, was significant. And they were afraid to take that risk.
But eventually word of mouth created the safety of Google, and now Google dominates.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you use Google Apps? I use Google Apps.
Oh, my gosh.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
Everyone
And
does.
we will need to have a conversation about iPhone at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like the expert.
Well, we just need to have a debate about it, but that we'll come back to that.
No,
But
people will say it's just like an iPhone. Okay, I'll take an iPhone.
Exactly.
People say, well, it's just like an iPad. Okay, well, I'll take an iPad. And I would challenge anyone who's thinking the opposite, go to a Verizon store where they sell 10 different kinds of tablets, and what do they use? What does the Verizon salesperson use?
Good point.
And the answer is they use an iPad.
Okay.
So I want to go back to the sales training piece for a minute. When I was working for a Fortune 500 company, I got sent way back when.
Yeah, way back when.
Years ago.
Yeah.
You look great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back when Bush was president, wasn't it?
So
I can't even remember that long ago.
So anyway, I got sent all over the country to take these different sales trainings by these proven companies. Okay, we're not going to go there with names, but I took like the top 4 or 5. And when it was time to start my own business and teach sales training, I knew I needed material before I created all of my own content. And I was thinking about it and thinking, none of those are how I sell. None of those are real world.
Yeah.
Okay, if you ask me to outline every single risk that could potentially be in a sale and come up with all the red flags and whatever and all the key stakeholders before I even make a phone call, that's not happening. No one does that.
No.
So in theory, in the classroom, it's great.
No,
it's a
not
great idea, okay?
People fall frickin' asleep.
But no one does it. It's not real world. It's not implementable. And I knew, for me, I wanted to teach something that I actually could use and other people could use and what actually made me successful. And then I found Jeffrey's stuff and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I do, as a salesperson.
That's what I said.
Well, we've already determined we're sisters from another mister.
So I want you to think about it this way. You can take a 5-day intensive class, or you can have 10 minutes a day of a kick in the ass. Which do you think is going to work better?
I'll take an ass kicking.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone will take an ass kicking. So I'm going to throw a couple of concepts out there that really piss me off.
Go for it.
The first one is finding the pain. That's the biggest thing. And there are companies that have built their entire sales process on finding the pain. My pain is none of your business.
You can swear.
I almost said fucking, but I didn't want to.
It's okay.
Right.
Almost.
It's none of your fucking business.
When I mark explicit, we get more downloads.
All right.
Cool.
There we go.
Okay, but the challenge is, why would you ask me something that would either irritate me, aggravate me, or turn me off? Why would you do that? And why wouldn't you instead try to find the pleasure? The football game from last Sunday where our team both won, or Klay Thompson made 14 3-point plays in one game. Whatever the commonality is, whether it's chess or fishing or going to the movies or going to the Statue of Liberty or visiting the Eiffel Tower, find those things in common. I refer to it as the link. Right. Find the link. And now you can go deeper into the conversation.
But this is why in the beginning you didn't even want to be associated with sales, because when people are finding the pain, it's sleazy. It's like that's why sales has a bad reputation.
And it continues to go on. We'll get back to your other stuff. The thing I wanted to ask you about, because I wanted to put your points of view on, if I get one more LinkedIn connection, like I now, every time I get a request, I just go, are they going to slam me as soon as I accept? And then I do. And it's like, so what's your biggest problem in your business? I'm like, who the fuck are you?
Right.
I don't even know who you are.
Right. Why would I tell you my biggest problem?
And I wrote an article on Forbes.com about being in sales is like having sex. Like if you're going to try to sell to me, you first need to take me out on a date, give me a meal. You need to wine and dine me before you try to take my pants off and get me in bed.
That's right.
And so now I just send that article to everyone.
That, honey?
Yeah.
I send that article to everyone who does that. What is your, why are they doing that? And tell them how to stop and why to stop.
Yeah, I have an article that I send to people when they say I'm currently out of the office. Email is going to be a little hard for me to get to. Like, seriously? You don't have a fucking phone? You can have email in 2 seconds if you want it. Anywhere in the world. You can be in Bali and get an email. It's called Wi-Fi. It's called Wi-Fi. And it's the goofiest ass thing. So I have an article that I wrote several years ago called Out of the Office or Out of Your Mind? And I just send it to people.
So if you're a good salesperson, a leader in sales, you should be knowing what their problem is, what the prospect's problem is before you even talk to them. You shouldn't have to ask them what their problem is.
But they're trolls. We're talking about trolls who are getting stuck behind their devices and they know nothing else because someone else came onto the scene and started teaching all this. And I'm a big believer in online marketing, but all this let's just troll people on LinkedIn and go after them for business. And not actually create a relationship.
And so my challenge to you, if you're a troll, is how well is that working for you? And if that's working for you.
Do you have that hair? That hair comes to a point?
I know.
That could be a whole new gimmick.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so if you are
sales
a troll.
They're like little dolls that you can send.
Listen, some people have to be trolls because their manager is telling them, I want you to reach out to 50 people on LinkedIn a day, and here's the message, okay? So if that's you, ask yourself, how effective is that? What's your closing ratio? What's your conversion ratio just to get a phone call, okay, or a meeting? And don't you think if you built a little bit relationship first and built a little bit of value first, you could have a better conversion ratio?
Or you could take your 6-year-old kid and have them call the prospect and say, my daddy would really like to talk to you. And I was wondering if you could give him
I think that's called Jewish guilt.
I wonder if you could give him a buzz.
Please.
Yeah, exactly. Please. I'll be your best friend. That's a way better.
Daddy really needs the sale.
That's a way better approach than the dumb one salespeople use. I think I can provide to save you some money. Okay, or you could take it one step worse. You could challenge me, because the challenger process is one where you train a 25-year-old kid to go in and challenge a 52-year-old CEO. Out of my office, please.
I've experienced one of those.
Yeah,
I definitely have.
Tell me about it.
So we did a training like that once, right? Where everyone was taught to challenge and come up with their challenge questions and all that. I didn't run this training. I was in the audience learning it. And then I became a manager and I had to go out with my team that had learned this methodology. And I'm sitting there, and the first 20 or so minutes of the conversation are challenges. I'm like, oh my God. You're supposed to ask one or two when the prospect talks.
It becomes so confrontational.
Not start off with. I mean, I was in pain. Literally, I was in pain for the prospect sitting there. I had to stop the meeting and say, let's just pause here. Let's go back. Let's start over. Okay, where'd you grow up? Or ask them a question about them, because it was ridiculous. And people take this training to heart. They don't understand, I think, how to use maybe one or two challenge questions at the appropriate time.
Appropriate time.
Let me throw this. Let me define it in a way that everyone will understand it. Discomfort, uncomfortable, all have a root word: comfort. And if you start out comfortably, you will actually create what's known as rapport. Mm-hmm. And you'll actually be able to get the other person to understand who you are while you're trying to understand who they are, based on your favorite car or where you grew up. If I'm a real estate salesperson and you come into my office and you say, I'm looking for a house here in South Charlotte, and I say, do you have a house for sale? Well, yeah, I do. Do you have a mortgage right now? Well, yeah, I do. Have you ever missed a payment? What are you asking me these questions for? I'm looking for a house. Oh, I'm just trying to help you. No, you're trying to qualify me. And you're trying to make me, I'm here for a house, and you're trying to qualify me as a buyer. That's bullshit. So why don't you create something that's comfortable dialogue rather than uncomfortable dialogue?
When I first started applying improv in sales training, And I was so new at it and trying to like figure my way through it. And we would do that whole yes and thing. And I would get pushback like, how can we yes and everything? And we need to ask questions. And you're telling us, because in improv, we teach people, the first thing we teach them is don't ask questions. I forgot to talk about that before. Don't ask questions. And then I got pushback, but we have to ask questions. I'm like, but you don't have to ask so many questions. When we ask questions on stage as performers, we literally delay the progress of the show. Mm-hmm. And people get bored with it. And people are on the defensive.
I would say last night, Jen bought me tickets to see Bruce Springsteen. And he created an atmosphere called Similar Situation, where he talked about growing up and where he grew up. And it made everyone in the audience think about where they grew up. You know, he created, in sales, it's called a topper. Like, you tell me a story about where you grew up, and then I'll tell you a story. Well, when I grew up, and so you're trying to one-up the other person's story, or at least create some kind of dialogue. I guarantee you that he made you think about where you grew up. And he grew up in New Jersey, so it was –
it was easy for me to think about where I grew up being from New Jersey.
But I'm telling you that there were people in that audience from all over the world, and they were thinking about where they grew up.
Yeah, the people behind us were from the UK.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that was that there were 1,000 or so people in the audience. It was a 2.5-hour show, no breaks. And everyone, when you looked around, was leaning in the entire time. People were engaged. People wanted to know more. There was unexpected things. If your prospect is that engaged the entire time, you win the sale.
Oh, you're
right?
Gonna win.
Well, what did we do right after the event? We went to the merchandise station.
Right, and bought some
merch.
shit. Yeah.
Okay.
We merched it.
Okay, so everyone merched it. I mean, they could not handle people fast enough.
There were 4 merchandise stations, one all the way across the way in the hotel. They were all full.
Full.
Well, there was an experience that was created.
Exactly.
And so we want to take a piece of the experience with us
Right. There was
to
a
remember
desire to take a piece of it home so that when you put the shirt on or you saw the poster, you thought about the experience that you had and it brought back a pleasant memory.
Right.
And he created this relationship with you, even though he wasn't talking just to you.
You felt like
that
he was.
you felt like he was, you know? And so the challenge is to do that on every sales call, but to actually be talking to the prospect.
And not so challenging. So I had a guy who came into my office this many, many years ago when I was a media buyer. I was a director of marketing. And so I bought a lot of media and advertising. And this young kid comes in and he's trying to sell me on the new holiday music format. And I wasn't an early adopter of things like that because I worked for a bunch of crazy Italians and I would have to explain that decision. So when I said to him no, gave him my objection, he's like, you obviously don't care about your business. Do you not care about this business?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's creating friendship.
Yeah.
That's creating rapport.
I'm like, we're done here.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And then I called his sales manager. I said, you probably should assign me a new sales rep.
No, here's the deal. I'll guarantee you this. He wasn't smart enough to think of that on his own. He was taught to say that.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's
Right.
the problem.
That's the point.
Misinformation getting out there. I mean, how many of your top customers are you friends with?
Oh, friends with all my customers.
Right. Of course.
It's the first thing I do is I want to be friends with them.
And for your listeners as well, you guys think about your top customers. How many of them do you have their cell phone number? Do you communicate with regularly? Do you know about their kids or their family lives, their dogs, whatever? Our customers sleep in our guest room in our house, like when they come over.
Thanks.
Our customers.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm just a
We
friend.
weren't here last night. We weren't here last night, or we would have offered it.
Yeah.
But
half price podcast interviews.
no, but really, because we wake up and we meet them in the kitchen and we have breakfast. We serve them breakfast, and they become part of our family, part of our lives, and
that's where loyalty comes from.
Oh, totally.
100%.
Totally. And open dialogue comes from that.
Yeah,
as well.
I mean, you're sitting at our kitchen table. We don't have to ask you
what's your
for
pain
your
point.
pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to tell us.
What's bothering you?
You're going to naturally open up.
Yeah. So why is that hurtful to you? And the answer is none of your fucking business. I'm so glad you asked me that.
Right.
Yeah.
But we don't have to ask.
Yeah, I went on this sales training blitz with a client. And it was the VP of sales. So we were literally going from city to city. And some of the cities we were driving to, like 3-hour drives. So We were in the car for some hours. Like we got to know each other so well that you're like, okay, let's not forget there's still a thin line.
Yeah.
Still got to be careful of the thin line and respect that. But we have just a natural, friendly, like during hurricane, I checked in on her. I'm like, is everybody okay at all your properties? Do you need anything? Can I help you in any way? Creating that friendship.
I want to throw one other thing at this. Let's talk about PC versus C. Politically correct versus conversational. If you look on Broadway, where we were last night, you'll see a giant billboard for the Book of Mormon. In its 6th year, won the Tony for the best Broadway play and other Tonys for whatever music, whatever. It's the grungiest, dirtiest conversational show on the planet, and some people don't like it.
By the way, here in Charlotte, a lot of people walked out. Okay. It was funny.
It's funny to watch them walk out. But the bottom line is they were being conversational. Mm-hmm. Last night in the Springsteen show, I'm going to say he dropped the F-bomb, I'll be conservative, 50 times. Mm-hmm. Because in New Jersey, that's the vernacular.
And Chicago.
Yeah, what exit are you from? Fucking exit fucking 11. And no one is offended by that. No one is offended by that. But you have these HR departments in big companies that take immediate offense to it. And I think that it makes the salesperson literally uncomfortable not to be themselves. Mm-hmm. They're fighting against being themselves to be someone that they were taught to be so they don't offend anybody, and they end up offending everybody.
It's like you're trying to be so professional that you're not being a human being
Right.
anymore.
You forget to be friendly.
That's the big thing I talk about with what we do. It's like we're rewiring brains to be human again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Just be human again. Mm-hmm. Just be normal again. So what's your approach?
I'm friendly.
I'm saying as a sales training company, how do you overcome getting into the door, getting in front of your decision makers and saying this is the type of training you should be doing versus all this old shit?
So I just want to say that old shit sells to people because
some of the buyers are old.
People are negative. No, most people are negative by nature, whether you realize that or not. You can study your words for a day and study your responses for a day. And most people, I find, because I pay very close attention to how people word things, say things in the negative and don't even realize it. Don't realize it. So when you hear the 7 reasons why salespeople fail versus the 7 ways to be the most successful salesperson.
I'm attracted to the most successful one. I don't want to know why people fail.
Right. You are. But a lot of people, unfortunately, are attracted to why people fail. Now, if you think about this from an educational standpoint, wouldn't you rather know how to be successful?
Of course.
Okay,
exactly. Who cares about why they fail? Let's be successful.
But how do we overcome
You teach humor. You're a sales guy and you're selling a copy machine and you walk into a gatekeeper that you do maybe 50 times a day and you say, I'd like to speak to the person who's in charge of it, and you get thrown out. Or you can say, I know you actually run the place, but I'd like to talk to the person that thinks they do.
Love that.
And
I love that. Did everybody hear that?
Yeah. That gives you an opportunity to see if they have a sense of humor, because some people don't. And because if you get the one who has the sense of humor, they will get you in. If you get to the one that doesn't have a sense of humor, they weren't going to let you in anyway.
And so you just asked, how do you overcome that? And yes, with humor and with building a relationship. Yeah. You can't overcome that just blindly. You need to build that relationship in order to be listened to and thought of as a person of value, where they think, okay, I trust this person enough to hear what they have to say. And then they'll want to listen.
Well, you're hitting on it's the trust piece, right? So,
exactly.
So what I have noticed in the type of work
trustworthy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The type of work that we do is different from a sales training perspective.
Sure.
So it's a harder sell.
No, it's not.
It could be an easier sell.
Well, in a lot of occasions, it's new. Let's just say it's the new.
Right.
It's the new thing that scares people.
Rather than saying new, if it were me, I would say, I'd like to talk to you about something that's slightly different than what you're doing right now, but more effective.
And I do. I do all that.
And it's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing.
Right.
Oh, and it's not a boring thing. It's a fun thing.
It's realizing, this is the thing that I've learned along the way. It's realizing that, and you've talked about this a lot, that fear for the buyer of making the wrong decision. And so I've had to learn how to work my way around that, even in the one that I told you the story where I said, no, I just want to have a conversation with you. Right. And then that turned into business eventually. But even when I was thought I was right there and we were deals done, then she's like, well, could I see you live sometime? When's your next live workshop?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, I just sent you 10 videos. I was getting so frustrated. I'm like, Gina, pull it back. Don't get angry.
Gotta use your own yes and.
Right. You have to yes and yourself and realize she's got someone she's got to prove it to. Even though she's not the CEO, she still had a decision-making power.
I have an idea.
I bet.
Dun, dun, dun.
For $100, you can go to a Best Buy and buy a television screen that's 28 inches. And can I see a live performance? You go, I'd love to show you one. Right now. And you plug it in and you turn it on. And the first thing I would do is show the top 10 funny things from SCTV in Chicago and or in Canada. And then I would show one of your things where you pick the 3 best things you've ever done. Now I'd say, well, when can I start?
Well, hell, for $100, just send them the TV with a USB stick inside.
No.
Ready to play.
No, you have to do it with them. You have to bring the popcorn. We're going to watch a movie.
Yeah, but if they're in another state.
Yeah, how do you do that when you're I'm dealing nationwide. So how do you do that if they're somewhere
Send them
else?
a TV.
Great idea.
Or US.
Great idea. I'm glad you thought of that.
Okay. At least send them an HDMI cable.
No, you can plug a USB stick right into it.
All right.
The best thing to do is probably send them a link.
Right. That's what I have been doing. The point is that people still have this fear no matter. So you have to take that in consideration.
So you send them a link and a Zoom invite and you take over their screen.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And a bag of popcorn.
Right.
Love it.
Yes.
Awesome.
This is from my hometown.
Yeah.
So here's the real reason that Gina's here. She pissed me off. And because she had an interview with somebody, no names or anything, but the whole thing was about negativity, about what you shouldn't do and who we're becoming. And it was just a bunch of drug-on stuff that was just absolutely horrendous. And the more I listened to it, the angrier I got. Now, maybe there was a reason for that. Maybe that you did it on purpose. I wonder if Gitomer will watch it and get pissed off.
I thought Gina was here because she's pretty awesome, but
But the bottom line was I reached out to her. She didn't reach out to me.
Right.
I don't reach out to anybody.
Which is what a great win. Yeah.
The interesting thing, though, that we're talking about right now with the TV and the popcorn and the whole thing is creating an experience. And salespeople, rather than finding the pain and whatever, you have to create the experience or people are going to go buy it online. They don't need you. You have to create the trust. You have to create the experience. And those are two things that the sales profession is often not talking about as much as they should because they're so stuck. These people who have been teaching it for 50 years or 60 years. And sorry to downplay that. That's great that they started 60 years ago, but the whole market has changed.
Right.
And
the world has changed.
Right.
I don't want to talk to somebody who's got 41 Twitter followers.
Right.
Or none.
And so how have they kept up with the times? And if they have not kept up with the times, how can they be out there teaching people how to sell?
And in particular, when I pissed you off, part of that interview was I really wanted to hear what that person had to say, what their take was, because I have people telling me that that's where they take their business. And I'm like, I am going to crack this code. And I want to hear the perspective on it.
So,
which got me here.
It's true. So I want to talk about the real world of the selling process. And the real world is you're given a spiel, you're given a set of slides, and then unexpected things happen in the middle of the presentation. Wait, that's not in my script. You're not supposed to ask that. What you're doing is teaching people how to be creative on the spot rather than how to memorize a script.
All day long.
Yeah. And that's what I would rather be. I would rather be creative on the spot. because I'm going to beat the guy who's memorizing a script all day long.
That guy's still looking down at the script, and you're like literally walking past him.
Right, and the prospect is on his phone, like not interested.
Right.
You know, like the person's reading from the script, and you're not looking at the client, and then the client is like, I'm out of here. I'm checking my email. I'm doing everything else but listening.
Since this is our interview, I can tell a story.
You can do whatever you want.
I'm in Houston at the Houston Astros baseball game. I'm giving a seminar, but I wanted to watch Roger Clemens pitch. He was pitching for the Houston Astros at the time, and they had just paid him $12 million, and I did the math, and they were paying him $4,000 a pitch. So I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't it be cool if they paid him after every pitch? Ball one, it's $4,000, Roger. Okay. So I'm coming back to the hotel, and it's a big lobby, and there's a lot of people. And I see these two people sitting there, and one guy is the sales guy, and the other guy is the customer. And the sales guy's like flipping through his slides, and the customer's paying zero attention. So I stop, and I look at the sales guy. I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm giving a presentation. I said, well, this guy's paying no attention. So I looked at the guy. I go, you buying or not? He goes, yeah, I'm probably going to buy. I said, what are you doing here? Just end it and make the sale. And I walked away. And that taught me that for the most part, when you're flipping through your slides, no one's paying any attention because what you're doing is talking and you're not asking. You can't get there by telling. You have to get there by asking. And ignore your slides, or what I tell people to do is mail them the day in advance. You know, the day before your presentation, say, here's my slides. They're pretty boring. But I'm not going to spend my hour going through my slides. I'm going to spend my hour talking about you. Oh, now I'm kind of intrigued. And if you don't bring an idea into the process, you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. That's the key. Bring me an idea, not a pitch.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the creative part.
100%.
So do you go to ball games? You go to Yankees games, don't you?
I love the Yankees.
And do you root for the Yankees?
Of course.
I know. Are you cheering for them like crazy?
Yeah.
Are you negative about it?
No.
Right, of course not. But the only thing you're negative about is a $7 hot dog.
No, I don't. I'm fine with a $7 hot dog if I'm eating it at Yankee Stadium.
Exactly.
It's probably $9, by the way.
It comes with a ball game. Like if you're bitching about the price, like, dude, it comes with a ball game.
Plus, like, you have to think about how expensive every bite is. And just savor it.
This is the best.
This is $1 a bite.
Just be grateful for it.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you take smaller bites, it could get it down to 50 cents.
Yeah, true.
You said there were a few things that pissed you off or things that you wanted to talk about. Are there any other on your list that are like jumping out?
I just don't want to hear the negativity about why people fail as opposed to how they can succeed. I think that there is a whole mindset around what's the positivity. Finding my pain, literally, no offense, it's none of your business.
Yeah, I agree.
But finding my pleasure, I'm more than happy to talk to you about my golf game or
You play golf?
No.
Okay.
Well, I do. I can shoot 100.
Okay.
Most people can't.
Okay.
I just don't. Who won
When
top?
was the
Wait a
last
second.
time you
Wait
golfed?
a second. Who did we play Top Golf as a company?
That's not real golf.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
Who won?
Did Doug win? I forget.
Right, I won. Okay.
It was really close.
Very close.
Okay, you won.
Okay, but the bottom line is, I want to talk about things that make me happy.
Like beating me in a foot race.
Right.
Because if you're happy and you're joyful,
Yeah, I may buy.
you might buy because you're
Right.
who's going to buy when they're in a bad mood?
If I was pissed off last night leaving the Springsteen concert, we would have just gone home grumbling. We went home happy with $100 worth of their stuff.
That's right.
Everybody did.
The poster was $40.
Right. But worth it.
But you're going to buy the things that you really want.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
And-
Like
Buy
at
the
that
experience.
point, here's the thing. At that point, the emotion had kicked in and he won us over emotionally with this connection, this deep connection. It didn't matter how much the poster was. It could
Right.
have been $60. We still would have bought it.
Exactly. 75, but 40. No,
but that's what you need to be doing with your prospects and your customers. How deep does that emotional connection go?
Well, let's talk a little bit about those prospects. How do you've talked about it, I agree with it, the go straight to the decision maker, go straight to the CEO. This question comes up a lot. How do I, salesperson, get to the CEO? Now, I've created my own strategy around that, which is my podcast, which has opened up a million doors that I can call a CEO. What's your advice for people that can't get to that point, don't know how to?
I agree with your philosophy 1,000%.
Everyone can get to that point. They just might not know how to.
I want to interview the CEO about his leadership philosophy, and I'd like to set a time to do that. And you talk with a administrative person, which they used to call a secretary, but they now call an executive admin, and they will set the appointment, and you get to talk to this person about them. Don't you dare talk about you. Even if they ask you, you defer it and say, that's a great question. Maybe we can talk about that after my interview is finished. But for the moment, I want to focus on you.
So you do it in the form of a podcast, and your listeners can do it in the form of a podcast. You can do it in the form of a blog, a TV show, a radio interview, whatever it may be, as long as you're attracting those CEOs and those leaders. And like Jeffrey said, you're making it about them.
Well, and I'm going to take another page out of the book. But Jeffrey, I can't find that person.
Seriously? Google. Yeah. Google is your friend.
Yeah, Google is your friend.
Yes, but you can.
I can just think about it this way. If you're trying to call a lower level person, whether maybe it's a building maintenance person or a procurement or a purchasing person, you're not going to interview them. They're not going to want to interview you. Who can you interview that would be strategic, that would be real engaging, that would actually give information that somebody else might want? You know, give me the keywords so that if I'm searching for leadership or if I'm searching for runs the company or CEO, I might be able to find your interview.
So all of this takes work.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Right. So this is what everyone listening needs to pay attention to. This is not something that you can there's no quick fix.
Right. You can call 100 cold calls.
Yeah. I mean, if you got into sales because you thought it wasn't going to be work and it was going to just be easy and come to you, you're probably in the wrong profession. Sorry.
Or you could ask that big closing question.
Yeah.
Do you want fries with that? You're in sales. It's just a little less pay.
Yeah.
Would you like some Garrett's popcorn with that?
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's talk about your books. There's books going on.
There are a lot of books going on.
Go, Jenny.
All right. I have a book called Sales in a New York Minute.
We're on video. You might as well hold it up.
There you go. It's 212 pages of real world and easy to implement strategies to make more sales, build loyal relationships, and make more money. And you can see inside.
It's so nice.
It's really it's well designed.
Yeah. And if you want to see how nice it is inside, buy the damn book.
All you need to do is go to Amazon and type in Sales in a New York Minute and get the book. But I talk about three things in the book. I talk about you, so your mindset strategies, your mentality, lots of stuff about you, because who you are first as a person matters who you are going to be in sales. Then I talk about selling strategies, and then I talk about your life. Okay, because all of this is going to impact your life and your career. And so I give you morning routines. I give you ways to be more successful in general, not just in sales. And it's all in bite-sized chunks. So it's Sales in a New York Minute, not meaning that you can only be successful in New York or these are strategies for New York, but more so meaning that a New York Minute is fast. So these are quick strategies that you can learn and implement right away.
It's going to be so fun to have you on Women Your Mother Warned You About.
I love it. I'm so excited.
We might bring Jeffrey on too and be like, Men your mother warned you.
Yeah.
Well, you can bring
you
me
might
on
want to ask him about women his mother warned him about.
Yeah, and as a father, I had to warn my daughters.
Yeah.
True.
And granddaughters.
True.
So I'm a warner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As opposed to a whiner.
Can I own that?
Please, you can.
Okay, thank you.
So for those of you out there still listening, I have a book called Truthful Living that I published with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and it is the first writings of Napoleon Hill from 1917 when he was just creating the philosophies of positive attitude and personal development in another course and wrote them as an addendum to the courses that he was teaching, and that's the foundational piece of Think and Grow Rich. So I've extracted all of that information, put it into book format, and you can see where Think and Grow Rich came from, a lot of which doesn't appear in Think and Grow Rich. And so it challenges the reader to relook at Napoleon Hill in a way that you can enact certain other elements of his thought process. For example, he talks about success is up to you in chapter 1. And you can get chapter 1, by the way, by going to
hillsfirstwritings.com.
hillsfirstwritings.com.
We'll put that in the show notes.
It will give you the first chapter. But he says success is up to you. Now think about that. It is. And then the second chapter is even more revealing, where he just says, finish what you start. How many people listening right now have 25 unfinished projects that is horrible? That if they just finished one of them. So he says, focus on the one and get it done. Then get the next one done. But don't try to do 10 things at one time. Don't be distracted.
What inspired you to do this?
I'm a Napoleon Hill devotee. I have been for years. And he inspired me to have my positive attitude back in the 70s. And I formed a relationship with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. We publish their weekly newsletter at no charge. We do it pro bono. And they found these writings and called me up on the phone and said, would you like to be the editor? And
that's awesome.
Yeah, totally cool.
That's
and
really
so
cool.
Amazon Publishing is the publisher.
So it's available now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll
October,
ship.
yeah.
Now it launched.
People are already Instagramming about it. It's pretty cool.
I've seen the Instagrams. I've seen it in the Facebook group.
Yeah. And it's available audio. It's available Kindle. It's available hard
it's
copy.
#1 bestseller, Kindle and audio so far.
Bingo.
I'm an Audible freak, so maybe that'll be my
download.
I'm telling you. And it's me reading it. And it is our
I love
producer,
listening
Doug.
to you read.
It is Doug is the editor, and we battled that thing because it's written in lexicon that's 100 years old.
And
I wouldn't dare change the words.
I love you did have an opening on, you did make a reference on if you're offended as a woman, because his writings, didn't include women. Like the first time I heard one of his books, I was like,
why hasn't he talked about
there are
girls?
no women in here? And how to
But
be
you know
like,
what? Just assume that it's about you too.
Yeah.
Like, get over it,
Yeah,
girls.
exactly.
Right, exactly. Our podcast is rated Get Over It.
No, I'm the first to say it, and I'm a girl. Like, get over it.
Wait, you're a girl?
Last I checked, yes.
Okay, cool.
I think so.
Yeah.
And you have another book.
I
another
do.
book?
It'll come out the first of the year. It's called The Sales Manifesto. I have been writing about sales for 25 years.
But you're so young.
I know. I started when I was 7.
Okay.
Well, the essence of the book is on the back cover. It says there's no prize for second place in sales. You either win or lose, sell or die. That's it. And this is a book about how to sell and not die.
All right. So,
So we got the books.
Yep.
Yeah.
If people want to connect with you, reach out to you, have stuff with you.
Gitomer.com.
sellerdiepodcast.com. We have a daily podcast show Monday through Friday.
Yep.
You can go to Gitomer.com for Jeffrey, salesinanewyorkminute.com for me.
And we'll see you in the funny papers.
We're everywhere on social.
Yeah,
Just
you
search our
Google
names,
us,
Jennifer
dude. We
Gluckow,
show up.
Jeffrey Gitomer.
Yeah, we show up on Google.
Well, I really appreciate both of you being on the Pivotal Leader today and letting me invade the studio.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm not leaving. All right, it's time for us to go.
All right.
All right, later.
Bye. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this episode of The Pivotal Leader. Thanks again to Jeffrey and Jen for being on the show. And special thanks to Doug at the Sell or Die Network, who took care of the recording of our episode for me, plus made it possible for me to be on their podcast. Collaboration is king and queen. Before we go, I want to mention a new opportunity to work with us. Pivot 10 Results is getting ready to launch an online improv-based sales training program called Spontaneous Selling 1.0 that will increase sales and improve leadership skills. So check it out. Visit our website at pivot10results.com or email me at getresults@pivot10results.com. And until next time, if you want to maximize, you need to improvise. Now it's time for that cool voiceover guy to take us out.
You've been listening to The Pivotal Leader with Gina Trimarco, owner and founder of Pivot 10 Results and Carolina Improv Company. You can find show notes for this episode on our website at thepivotalleader.com. The Pivotal Leader is a production of Pivot 10 Results, a strategy and training company that helps businesses shift from people problems to performance results. If your company needs help pivoting to success, visit pivot10results.com or email Gina at pivot10results.com. And until next time, if you're feeling stuck in your business, it's probably time to pivot.